You know that feeling when you walk into a place and something just feels off? Like there's a kind of weight in the air you can't quite put your finger on? Well, today we're going to dive into a story that explores how the echoes of the past aren't just memories, they can be a real physical presence. We're going to see how one single object can connect a person to centuries of history in an instant. So, our story takes us to a former slave breeding farm almost 200 years after a horrific tragedy. And the thing is, right from the start, it's clear that the feeling of that day, it just never left. The author puts it this way: time had not diminished the dark power of that tragic day. So, this isn't just about reading history, it's about feeling it in the very air you breathe. All right, so first, we really have to get a sense of the atmosphere here. This is a place where the past isn't neatly tucked away in a book. It's an inescapable presence that you can actually feel all around you. Just imagine it for a second. That feeling that just hangs in the air, it's like a direct, unbroken line connecting this very moment to the terrible events that happened right there on that soil. You get this profound sense that you're not just looking at a historical site, you are literally standing inside the story itself. And that heavy feeling? Well, it gets even more intense when we zero in on one specific building on the property, a place where the idea of sanctuary was completely twisted into the very center of suffering. Picture this. You step inside a tiny, confining chapel. It's the kind of space that's supposed to give you a sense of peace, right? But instead of any kind of solace, there's just this intense, oppressive feeling. The walls themselves almost feel like they're closing in on you. And right there, in that moment, comes this stark realization. This place, this sacred space built for worship, had been warped into the heart of a man-made hell. It's that complete inversion of purpose that makes the horror feel so real, so immediate, even centuries down the line. But now, the experience is about to shift, and shift dramatically. We're about to move from this abstract, atmospheric horror to a tangible, physical connection that makes the past absolutely impossible to ignore. So, standing outside now, on a cliff overlooking the sea, it all boils down to this one question. How do you possibly bridge a gap of 2 centuries? How does a historical tragedy stop being a story and become real? And here is the devastating answer. The abstract weight of history suddenly becomes concrete, something you can hold in your hand. This single, fragile object makes an immense tragedy profoundly personal. It's not a story about the past anymore. It's happening right now. The skull belonged to a little girl named Joanna. She was 3 years old. And just like that, the story isn't about an anonymous tragedy anymore. It's about one child. This single number transforms an unimaginable historical horror into a deeply intimate, individual loss. You see, holding Joanna's skull wasn't just about confronting the past. It triggered something deep inside. This incredibly powerful external experience connected to a deep internal echo that had been there for a lifetime. The past outside suddenly made sense of a past that was living within. And immediately, a recurring dream from childhood comes rushing back. A dream of swimming in a vast ocean that all of a sudden makes a terrifying kind of sense. It links this historical trauma to something that has been living in the subconscious for years. And this dream, it always follows the same unsettling pattern. First, there's this feeling of purpose. You're swimming towards something unknown. But you also know you're swimming right into an inevitable, overwhelming force. The climax is always just out of reach. You wake up just before the impact, but the dread of it is always, always there. That final image from the dream, that wall of water forming on the horizon, wow, it's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? It represents this inescapable, overwhelming force of history. We feel this pull to confront it, yet so often we turn away just before we have to face its full impact. And all of this leaves us with a final, really crucial question. This experience was one person's confrontation with a physical echo of the past, but it kind of makes you think about the legacies we all carry, both the ones we know about and the ones we don't. So what waves are still building from our collective history, and do we have the courage to swim out and meet them?